Hi there, and welcome to the Gazette's Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and we have a special guest this week, former Canadian Nate Thompson, who played 15 seasons in the NHL, including 2 in Montreal before hanging up his skates a couple of years ago, along with my regular partner here, former Canadiens defenseman, assistant coach, and 1986 Stanley Cup champion Rick Green. Nate, great to have you here. Good to see you again. I know you're doing some media work now, I believe, with the LA Kings, correct?
I am. Good to see you guys. Now I'm on the dark side, covering the hockey on this side of it. So, yeah, it's good to see you guys this morning.
That game Tuesday night at the Bell Center, Nick Suzuki scoring with 9 seconds left in the third period to tie the game, and again 29 seconds into OT to win it. The Habs beat the defending Stanley Cup champs all 4 times they met them this season. Nate, I know Nick Suzuki was your line mate as a rookie. How do you explain what the Canadiens have been able to do this season against Florida?
Well, I think it's just resilience and also to them playing the right way. I think, and to just solidify Nick Suzuki, when I used to play with him, and he already had the understanding of the game, of knowing how to play the game the right way. And the Montreal Canadiens, I think, and Marty St. how they've come together and how they just keep pushing no matter what happens in the game. And last night, I thought they had a great game.
Rick, what impressed you most about last night? Excuse me.
Well, you look at the success that they've had against Florida with, 5 goals against in 4 games. Big time stingy defense. They just were committed to finding a way to shut down Florida. Physical, in their face. I don't know what it is. I guess it's motivation to try and beat the defending Stanley Cup champions, whatever you want to call it. But as a group, they're buying into what they need to do. Everybody's performing. They're getting great goaltending and timely saves. That is, obviously critical to getting them over the hump. And this seems to be what's trending right now, unlike what we saw on their little bit of a losing streak. And as Nate and everybody knows, it's been in the game. It's a question of hitting the stride, hitting everybody with their A game each and every night. And right now, they are determined, and they seem to be really focused on trying to find a way as a group, doing whatever they can do, blocking shots, paying the price to get into the playoffs.
Nate, last night, Lane Hutson, 3 more assists. Has assisted on 6 of the 7 goals the last 2 games. Breaks Chris Chelios' record for most assists by a rookie Canadiens defenseman. Looks like he's going to break the NHL record. His people out in LA are probably talking about him too. What's impressed you watching this kid play?
Well, I think the most thing that has impressed me, I think, is his defensive play too. I think. Everyone talks about his offensive play and how dynamic he is, and laterally how he can move across the blue line. All those things he can do offensively, but I think it's defensively how he can check with his brain and his stick. He's not obviously the biggest guy, but I thought last night, I thought he almost kind of set the pace at times for the Canadiens at the beginning of the game. I thought, whether it's him dynamically getting the puck on the blue line and moving and making a play, whether it's a breakout, all those things he does. He makes plays. And I remember there was an instance in the first period where Sam Bennett was going to run him, on a forecheck, and he makes a play and, sidesteps him and just moves right by him, so he's elite. I think, there was a stat with him and other rookies in the league and an assist of guys from the past. And he was, head and heels above everybody, right? So this guy he's impressive, and he's definitely a key cog for the Canadiens.
It was funny after the game last night, Rick, I mentioned to him, I said, do you know anything much about Chris Chelios? And I heard about a little bit about him. I know he played for the Blackhawks because he's a Chicago kid. And I said, do you know who has the record for most assists in a season by a Canadiens defenseman? And he went, no. And I said, well, it's Larry Robinson. And your buddy, and I said, do you know much about him? And he goes, well, not really, I'm young. He just keeps, in every game, he just seems to get better, Rick.
And, he keeps it really simple when it comes down to when he has an opportunity just to get pucks to the net. He just gets pucks to the net, and the results are happening, that rebounds and deflections. And it's working for him. And, aside from when he does have that puck and his creativity and his vision, he's playing like a seasoned veteran. Man, oh man, are we going to see some great things in the future? Hard to imagine that this kid is just in his first year getting a taste of the NHL, and he's getting that kind of, doing those type of things this early on. But fun to watch, and I just I'm amazed how his agility and his quickness and his decision making under pressure is impressive. He doesn't make too many bad plays and seems to be really committed to try and battle one-on-one with his intelligence and stick work. And really nice to see in a young defenseman.
Nate, he's such a unique type of player. Does he remind you at all of anybody you played with or against during your career?
I think the person or the player he reminds me the most is Quinn Hughes a little bit. I think maybe, different skaters. Lane Hutson kind of, like I said, moves laterally, and he almost looks like he's floating on the ice a little bit. Yeah. And so I'd say those two, and obviously their size is similar, but the way they both handle the puck, the way they both make plays, see the game offensively, they're very similar to me. But I think Lane, I think the way, like I said, the way Rick talked about how he plays defensively. I to be honest, I haven't watched him a ton this year. I'm trying to watch as many games as I can, but to see him play defensively and see how he battles, that's the thing that really jumped out to me last night, is how much he really, really battles in defensive zone, and he wins battles. And for his size, it's impressive, and it just shows that, like Rick said, he's going to be one heck of a player.
Yeah, I know. Speaking with Rob Ramage, the director of player development at training camp, about Lane playing defense in the NHL, and he always said he's like a dog on a bone playing defense. It's exactly what we've seen from it. Rick, that win, that was what an exciting win over the Panthers and sweeping. What kind of confidence boost will that give these guys going out into the last 8 games of the season?
Well, I think it's huge at this time of year, and we don't need to mention the importance of every point for the Habs, but how they're playing and how they're finding ways to win is impressive. Just look at, they won't stop. They find ways to get bounces. And I don't know, unless you've played the game before, when the hockey gods are on your side, funny things happen. And it gets in the brains of the opposition that they go, oh, we're not going to maybe win. We can't beat these guys because we got to go against somebody else upstairs. But right now they're getting a lot of things going their way, and just got to keep it going. And who knows where we'll end up.
I know somebody on social media noted maybe the Forum Ghosts finally found their way back to Montreal. Do you believe in that hockey god stuff, Nate?
I absolutely believe in that. Absolutely. I agree with Rick. And Nick Suzuki said it after the game in his post-game interview. He said, we deserved that goal, that they tied it up with, right? If you play the right way and you do the right things, I do believe that the hockey gods will reward you. And they did with Montreal last night. I thought they played a pretty good game last night, especially against a team that we all know is the defending Stanley Cup champs, and they play a hard game, a simple game, and the Canadiens matched it. And I think they deserve that win.
That's quite remarkable. There's 28 seconds left to face off in your own zone. And Marty said he couldn't take a timeout because it was an icing. And the guys on the ice had been out for 2 minutes. They're dead tired. Keep the puck in. Hutson said he didn't know Suzuki was there. He just sort of threw it at the net. But he said Nick's such a smart player. He wasn't in the right place at the right time. Rick, what's your biggest concern? They had 8 games left here. They're holding on to the wild card spot. What's your biggest concern moving forward?
Hoping they stay healthy. I just, they got a lot of good things going with their line combinations. Their goaltending is doing the job, and you got to be healthy going into the last stretch. Not to mention if they do find a way in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that everybody is going to be good, and everybody's going to continue to play their A game, because that's what's happening right now. Not overly concerned, because they have that look in their eye right now that says we're going to do anything and everything we can do to find a way in. And it's tough to stop a team when they're that hungry and playing that well collectively. it's tough to play against.
Nate, they are a young team. I mean, this is the first time in 4 seasons they're playing meaningful games at the end of the season. How big of a concern would that be for you, just the inexperience they have playing in these high-pressure situations?
I mean, that would be my only concern, I think, for this team is maturity. And you saw it a little bit last night. I think the couple of those, those penalties they took in the offensive zone, those more times than not will come, they'll come back to bite you. And so I think those key moments of the game, I think, is just where maybe, sometimes you can't always win like they did last night. You can't expect that. So I think it's just maturity, because I think, with the goaltending they got or they've had and the play of the first line. And I have to note too, I mean, the line of Gallagher, Dvorak, and Anderson last night was extremely good. And, that really helped their team last night as well.
I asked Marty about that line after the game last night, Nate. It's 3 veterans, and Marty has these concepts, right? These sort of wild, like him and Lane Hutson think the game the same way. As Gooley said, when they're talking hockey together, it's like they're speaking a different language. I don't even understand what it is. So I asked Marty after the game, 3 veterans on the line. Are you sort of letting them play their own game within the concepts? And you were a veteran guy, that north-south game, right? 3 veterans, that really seems to be working well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all know how they need to play. They expect the same from each other, and I'm sure Marty knows that too. And all 3 of those guys have been in the league for a little while now. They all know how they have to play, and they want to make the playoffs. I mean, you could see that those guys really want to play meaningful hockey. So, and it was a boost for their team last night.
Rick, some roster change with Caden Gooley coming back. Arbor Jacka has made a healthy scratch in favor of Jaden Struble. Were you surprised to see that was the decision that Marty made?
Not really. Marty needs everybody on board and playing the right way. And, talk about who would come out. Struble would be the last guy that I would take out. He's just been really solid playing, committed to defense first and making a lot of good things happening when he's on the ice. Jacki, he's gotten away from what gave him success earlier on, making some mistakes defensively, which they can't afford to have right now. And he needs to understand, and Marty's sending him the message that, listen, we know you can do better. Take a step back and start to understand sooner than later that you have to do more for us. And that's not necessarily being over aggressive, trying to take yourself out of position. Play it simple, play within your limitations, make good decisions with the puck. Don't get caught defensively on the wrong side of things. All the things that a defenseman has to bring each and every game, have to understand that when they don't do that stuff, it hurts the team and costs you games sometimes. So, Jacki, take a step back, understand that they need him, but they need him to be at his A game instead of struggling right now, which he needs to figure out quickly how he needs to play to get back into the lineup.
Nate, I know you know Marty St. Louis pretty well. You were his teammate for 5 seasons in Tampa Bay. You played against him too. Were you surprised that he ended up becoming a coach?
I'm definitely not surprised one bit. When I played with Marty, he was a guy that, in between periods or before practice, if we were working on something or there was a play being made, he was on the whiteboard with the marker showing the boys what we need to do. So, and Marty was as passionate as anybody I've ever played with. Probably the most influential teammate I've ever had. And, just a guy that really genuinely cares about winning and getting better. And I think you're seeing that with this team. I mean, you're seeing the belief that some of these players have in themselves. You've seen the development of some of these guys. And, I'm not surprised that Nick Suzuki has been doing what he's doing, because with Marty behind him and helping him and not just Marty, but but Lane Hutson as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised, and I knew Marty would be a good coach. I knew he was going to have doubters, but as I've known and played with Marty's all about doubters, and he's a guy that likes to prove people wrong. So, not surprised one bit.
What's impressed you, Rick, just watching Marty this season, the way he's handled this team as someone who's been behind the Canadiens bench as an assistant with Claude Julien?
Well, I think there was a little concern that he wasn't making the players more accountable on occasion for not doing what they're supposed to do. And I think he's come to understand he wants to do all the right things, and each player has to be handled differently. But one thing that he'll never accept is, and we saw that with Laine, effort and commitment to the team and what the team needs from each and every guy to have success. And if you don't do it, then you're going to have to take a step back. And whether that's through ice time or coming out of the lineup, I think that he's pushing all the buttons on each and every guy to make sure that they're ready to play and do what they have to do to give the team success.
He's been canceling a lot of practices recently, Rick, or making them optional and morning skates. Do you think that's the right route to go at this point in the season?
At this time of year, practices, what you're going to get out of it, I really don't believe there's much to it. They can have their meetings, they can have their discussions. They just need to be rested. It's a grind. It's a long year, and it's very demanding when you know that every game is a must game, a lot of pressure. And these guys, like I said, they have to handle each guy differently, but as a group, I think they have to be rested mentally and physically in order for them to perform at their best. And I'm all for, take a little break away from the ice and come recharge come next game.
Nate, you never got a chance to play a playoff game during your 2 seasons with the Canadiens at the Bell Center. Can you imagine what that place will be like if these guys get in?
I can imagine a little bit just from playing against Montreal in the playoffs as a road team. So I remember I got to witness it as in that way. But no, I can't imagine. I mean, just seeing the atmosphere, watching on TV last night, you could feel the Bell Center with unbelievable energy. So I mean, to be able to play in front of the Montreal Canadiens fans was special, and hopefully these kids on this team can do the same.
What do you miss most about Montreal, Nate? I know life out in LA must be pretty good, but what did you enjoy most about your time here, and what do you maybe miss about the city?
I think the food and the people. I mean, everyone was, my time in Montreal was great. I mean, obviously winning wise, and we didn't make the playoffs, and I was traded, but in the short time I was there, it was, I really enjoyed it. And I think the biggest thing for me was probably the food, though. So I really enjoyed that part.
Well, who gave you the Uncle Nate nickname? It seems so fitting because you were. I remember asking Nick Suzuki about him when he was a rookie, and he said, "Yeah, he's like an uncle, big brother type of thing." Where'd you get that nickname from?
That might have been Nick Suzuki, because I don't know who came up with that, but I remember Shea Weber, everyone was calling him Dad at the time, so the easiest thing was for me to be Uncle. So Nick is. I mean, what a player he's turned into. It's pretty incredible to see.
Nate, you were talking about, Marty St. as a coach. You played for a lot of teams, a lot of different coaches. Was there one coach who really stood out, or one guy who helped you the most, maybe as a player?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of them. I look back at a guy like Scott Gordon, who I had in the minors with Providence. I also had him with the New York Islanders. He was a coach that helped me a lot in my young, the early part of my career. And then, I think, guys like, Claude Julien was a big one for me. I had him beginning in Boston, then in Montreal, and Guy Boucher, John Stevens, all these guys that were, all had their part. I think in every coach on every team I had, everyone has their part in my, my career. So it was, I really enjoyed learning from different coaches and getting a different, get a different aspect of the game. So, but those coaches kind of jump out at me the most.
Any thought of getting into coaching yourself, Nate, or are you going to stay on the dark side with us media guys?
Well, I did. I coached a little bit last year with the Ontario Reign, the American Hockey League. I was quote unquote the skills coach. So, I definitely got my coaching experience a little bit last season. It was good, and I learned a lot from it.
Rick, did you know you wanted to go into coaching after you played?
No, not really. It happened pretty quickly to the point where one day I was, on the ice. The next day I was like behind the bench, and the transition is not that easy because, it's no longer can you get on there and try and, repair some of the problem areas. Now you have to try and deliver the message and inform the guys in a way that they buy into it. But yeah, it was good. I got 11 and plus years doing it, and really enjoyed the relationship that you could have with the guys, and built up some pretty good memories over the years.
I know assistant coaches, Rick, aren't the ones making speeches in the locker room, but if you were in Marty St. Louis' shoes going into the locker room now, what would you be saying to these guys with 8 games left?
Well, I think, judging from what I'm hearing, Marty leaves these guys alone quite a bit for them to, look at where they're at, and he'll come in and touch in a few areas that he'd like to see tuned up. I think that the writing's on the wall. I don't think there's anything needs to be brought out other than find a way to get your rest, find a way to be your very, very best down the stretch, because speaking from my experience of getting an opportunity to play in front of a Montreal Canadian fan base, it doesn't get much better, and they'll lift you right off your seat when it comes down to the support and how much it means to them. And it's a two-way street, and when you get a taste of given the opportunity to give back to those fans that have been crying and wanting so badly over the last 4 years, you find a way to do it, and they're looking pretty good right now.
Nate, if you were still in your Uncle Nate role and playing with this team right now, would you get up and say anything to the guys in the room, and if so, what would it be?
I don't think I'd have to say much right now. I think the way this team's playing, and everyone knows the importance of every game and what's on the line and possibly making the playoffs. I think at this point it's just I think it's enjoying it too, and I'm sure Marty is letting these guys know that at the same time, this is you have to enjoy this. You're playing playoff hockey already. You're getting a chance to play playoffs and maybe possibly like Rick said, play at the Bell Center in the playoffs, which is I'm sure they're all thinking about it and they want to happen. So I think for me, if I'm in that locker room, I'm just supporting guys and letting guys know that enjoy this, because sometimes you don't get all these opportunities and you have to take advantage of it. So I think that would be my biggest message to these guys.
Before we go here, Nate, I know you were a popular guy in the locker room and with fans during the 2 years you were here. Some Montreal fans who haven't seen you for a while. Any message you want to send along to them?
Go Habs, go.
Well, that's a good way to end this show. That's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. We'll be back with a new show next week with Chris Nyland returning to the panel. Thanks again, Nate, for joining us. Much appreciated this week. You can also look forward to our 3 bonus episodes coming up over the next few days. It's a busy week for the Canadiens with games Thursday against the Bruins at the Bell Center, Saturday against the Flyers at the Bell Center, and then a Sunday night game in Nashville against the Predators. That's a sort of weird back-to-back with a time change and everything. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to MontrealGazette.com/newsletters to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to HockeyInsideOut.com every day where you'll get all the latest Canadiens news. And please leave comments in the comment section below to let us know what you think about the show.